Stepping up pressure on Moscow over invasion of Ukraine, the United States has announced more sanctions. This time the targets are Russia's defense industry and ally Belarus. In response to Belarus's support of Russia's war, the White House unveiled sweeping restrictions on Belarus to choke off its import of technological goods. United States has also announced sanctions that target Russia's defense sector. The curbs will impose significant costs on Russian weapon development and production companies. Belarus and Russia are closely linked, and Belarus has been used as a key staging ground for the invasion of Ukraine. Washington has so far imposed several rounds of sanctions, including those against Putin and the central bank. Top US diplomat Antony Blinken has asserted that the Russian president made some grave miscalculations. Blinken has said that Putin assumed that the United States and allies were bluffing over imposing sanctions.
President Putin may have assumed that the United States and our allies were bluffing when we warned of massive, unprecedented consequences. But, as President Biden likes to say, big nations can't bluff. The United States doesn't bluff, and President Putin has gravely miscalculated.
Now, WION correspondent Trent Murray is joining us live from Berlin for more on this. Trent, thank you for joining us. The United States has imposed more sanctions, this time also on Belarus. What can you tell us about this latest round of sanctions?
Well, these sanctions, of course, being led out of the United States in cooperation with the European Union, are designed to really try and continue to hammer the Russian economy as a way to try and get President Putin to back off on these invasions. It does everything from targeting Russian banks to targeting the oligarchs that have made enormous sums of money as friends of President Putin, running some of the country's biggest companies. And so what we're really seeing here is an incredible ratcheting up of pressure on the economy. It is having an impact on people in Russia. Of course, we've all seen those scenes of queues stretching for kilometres, it seems, for people at the ATM trying to withdraw their money as the value of the ruble continues to collapse against the US dollar. And even here in Europe, we are just seeing this massive exodus of European companies out of Russia. Some of the big titans of German industry, for example, have all but abandoned Russia. Companies like BMW, Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, DHL, Adidas, the list goes on. They say they are not doing business in Russia now, given this invasion of Ukraine.
Absolutely, Trent. In fact, I was just going to come to that. What can you tell us about the impact of this on Europe? Do you think Europe can sustain its energy needs?
Yeah, well, this has always been one of the discussions at a European level around sanctions on Russia previously, before this invasion, when it was still being mooted, still being discussed as a possibility if this was to occur. The fact that in many ways Europe has got a bit more skin in the game, it has a bit more to lose given its proximity to Russia and given its reliance on Russian energy to help power its grid. I mean, where I am here in Germany, about 50% of the gas used here in this country comes from Russia, and so when you start shutting off those supplies, start sanctioning the companies that supply it, you have to find energy elsewhere, which is why we know conversations are happening with countries like Norway and Qatar, even Japan, to try and increase the amount of LNG, the liquefied natural gas that can be sent on cargo ships, to come to Europe to try and fill the hole, but also conversations about rapidly trying to get renewable energy up and running. So there is just not this reliance on Russian gas. But I will say that for now, despite those concerns, Europe does seem incredibly united in wanting to send this strong message to the Kremlin. And I think it may have just caught President Putin by surprise just how united and strong Europe is responding to all of this. I don't think he expected it.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, as we know, this has also sparked off a refugee crisis. What can you tell us about Europe's response to that?
Yeah, well, I think the latest figure is close to 1 million people have now fled Ukraine. pretty well all coming to Europe, trying to get away from this conflict. And so what you're seeing is this outpouring of support from European Union countries to try and take these people in, to help them in their hour of need. Of course, most are coming to places like Poland and Romania, given they share a border, but then more are then continuing to travel on. And we just saw some very heartening scenes overnight here where I am in Berlin, at Berlin Central Station. Private citizens there waiting for the trains to arrive, welcoming Ukrainian refugees, holding flowers, holding signs saying welcome, even signs offering rooms and spaces to stay for these people that have really left with nothing but the clothes on their back. That's, of course, what private citizens are doing. At a city level, I understand already emergency accommodation is trying to be set up, including using things like old hospitals and even old office space to help just try and take these very large flows of people, which we're expecting.
All right, Trent, thank you so much for joining us with all your inputs on this. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.